What do you get when GM dealers go rogue? In the 70s, a few wild showrooms started building machines GM wouldn't dare touch. Monster wagons, drag-ready oddballs, and promo cars tuned for chaos. Welcome to Top 5 Classic Car. Today we're counting down 9 of the weirdest dealer-built GM cars of the 1970s, the kind that were never meant to exist. These weren't factory specials. They were backroom projects, regional legends, and how did that get built street freaks. Some were born to race. Others were made to shock. All of them? Unapologetically insane. Let's jump in. Top 1. 1971 Baldwin Motion Phase 3 GT Corvette. What happens when a speed-crazed dealer decides the Corvette just isn't wild enough? Welcome to Baldwin Motion, the infamous Long Island tuning house that turned factory Corvettes into street-legal monsters. In 1971, they unveiled the Phase 3 GT, a hand-built freak designed to humiliate everything from hummus to Ferraris. It wasn't just powerful, it was theatrical. Fiberglass flares ballooned over fat L60 rear tires, side pipes growled like a dragster, the front end sloped like a missile, with hideaway headlights and a jacked-up rear begging for liftoff. Under the hood, Motion's signature, a 454 cubic inch LS6 or LS7 big block blueprinted and dyno-tuned to the buyer's insanity level, often over 500 horsepower. Mated to a heavy-duty turbo 4.88 gears, it could scream through the quarter mile in the low 11S if you could keep it straight. Inside, you got custom seats, Stewart Warner gauges, and sometimes even a roll bar, because Motion expected you to drive it like a weapon. Here's the shocker, Motion guaranteed these cars would run 11S or they'd buy them back. That wasn't marketing, that was legal. The result? Only about 10 Phase 3 GTs were ever built, each customized to terrifying extremes. Most buyers were too scared, or too smart, to unleash them fully. Today's surviving examples are unicorns, valued at over $500,000 and often locked away in private vaults. But one glimpse of those wide hips and drag slicks still makes modern exotics look tame. But while Baldwin Motion went full berserk, another dealer tried to sneak muscle into the most unlikely shape: a wagon built to haul groceries, and G-forces. Top 2. 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge Wagon. What do you get when you blend a muscle car icon with a station wagon shell? One of the strangest judgments Pontiac ever passed. The GTO Judge was already Pontiac's loudest revel, born to mock insurance companies and terrify stoplights. But sometime in 1970, a small handful of dealership insiders and engineers decided to break the mold. They swapped the heart and soul of the Judge, a 400 Ram Air 3 or 4 V8, hood tack, rally 2 wheels, into the body of a Le Mans wagon. The result was bizarre genius, a family hauler with hideaway headlights, Judge stripes, and a tailgate that looked ready to outrun a patrol car. It had dual exhausts tucked under a rear bumper made for picnic baskets. Inside, standard bench seats, wood grain dash, air conditioning, and enough room for the dog and 2 kids. But turn the key, and the rumble told a different story. This was no grocery runner. Here's the kicker. Pontiac never officially built these. They were dealer creations, likely no more than 12-14 units ever assembled, using Judge parts ordered through back channels. Some were built for promotional stunts, others for curious customers with deep pockets and wild imaginations. No two were exactly alike, and all were dangerously cool. Most faded into obscurity, mistaken for base wagons or crushed long ago. But today, the few that survive are Pontiac folklore museum-grade oddities, worth 6 figures, with stories no VIN decoder can explain. But while the Judge wagon snuck power under suburbia's radar, Pontiac had another surprise in 1970, a shockingly bright promo car that screamed rebellion from every panel, and didn't need a roof rack to do it. Top 3. 1970 Pontiac GTO Orbit Orange Dealer Promo. Some cars scream for attention. This one practically blinded you in the showroom. By 1970, the muscle car wars were burning hot, and Pontiac needed to keep the GTO fresh. Enter Orbit Orange, a retina-searing factory hue so loud it was originally reserved for high-impact marketing. But it wasn't just the color. Dealers across the U.S. received a very specific order: build in-your-face GTO promos using rare combinations. Ram Air 4S, hood tacks, spoiler kits, and all the decals that made a GTO look like it just escaped from a drag strip. These weren't standard production units. Each one had a mission: to grab eyeballs in the lot, lure kids and dads alike, and prove that Pontiac still owned the streets. Under the hood, a 400 cubic inch Ram Air 3 or 4 cranking out up to 370 horsepower. Quarter mile, low 14S. Inside, vinyl buckets, Hurst shifter, and zero subtlety. Here's where it gets weird. Many of these dealer promo cars never made it to customers. They were thrashed, raced, or quietly returned to fleet use once the sale period ended. And since they weren't separately coded in factory records, tracking them today is nearly impossible. Some collectors believe fewer than 25 authentic Orbit Orange dealer cars were ever built with the full high-performance package. That has made them unicorns. When one pops up at auction with provenance intact, it draws headlines. Restored examples have pulled in six-figure bids simply for being louder, rarer, and bolder than any standard GT. But Pontiac wasn't the only one experimenting with bold flavors. Across town, Oldsmobile was slipping something strange and citrus-colored into showrooms. And it wasn't a performance icon. Top 4. 1974, Oldsmobile Omega SX350. When Oldsmobile tried to sneak performance into a grandma car, they accidentally built a sleeper legend. At first glance, the 1974 Oldsmobile Omega looked like any other compact GM clone. It shared its bones with the Chevy Nova, had the usual chrome trim, and screamed commuter special. But buried deep in dealer catalogs was a strange package: the SX350, only available at select dealerships. This trim quietly added a 350 cubic inch 4-barrel V8, dual exhausts, stiffer suspension, and heavy-duty cooling. It wasn't advertised as a muscle car. There were no stripes, no Ram Air hoods, no aggressive spoilers. But the SX350 had guts: 180 horsepower, decent torque, and a 0 to 60 time just over 8 seconds. Faster than anyone expected from something that looked like it belonged in a bingo parking lot. Inside, it came with upgraded dash trim, rally wheels, and bucket seats if you ticked the right boxes. The SX350 wasn't listed in national brochures. Many customers didn't even know it existed unless their dealer was in the know. As a result, production numbers were extremely low, estimated at fewer than 200 units. Worse yet, most were daily driven, rusted out, or scrapped, with few collectors realizing what they were losing. Today, the Omega SX350 has become a forgotten blip in Oldsmobile's performance history. Survivors are nearly extinct. But for hardcore GM fans, it's a hidden gem. A stealthy performer wrapped in plaid and chrome. And when one shows up at a car show, jaws drop, usually followed by the words, "Wait, they made that?" But if you think that was weird, wait until you see what Don Yanko did to an unassuming Nova. He didn't hide performance, he shoved it right in your face. Top 5. 1971 Yanko Deuce Nova 350 LT1. Forget big blocks. Don Yanko's wildest Nova packed Corvette firepower in a lightweight frame that screamed street menace. By 1971, emissions rules and insurance penalties were hammering the muscle car world. Big blocks were under siege, but Don Yanko wasn't ready to quit. Instead of another 427 monster, he partnered with Chevrolet to build the Yanko Deucia Nova, stuffed with the high-revving LT1 350 V8 straight out of the Corvette. It wasn't just engine magic. The Deuce came loaded with the F41 suspension, front and rear sway bars, power front disc brakes, and a 4-speed Muncie transmission. On paper, 360 horsepower, a red line over 6,000 RPM, and quarter-mile times dipping into the high 13s. Outside, it wore wild Yanko striping, unique badging, and a blacked-out grille that gave it instant street cred. Unlike earlier Yankos, this one wasn't built in a speed shop. It was factory-ordered via the Copo 9010 program, then upfitted at Hurst Performance. But even with all the firepower and factory backing, the Deuce was a hard sell. Insurance premiums were skyrocketing for youth or linded cars, and many buyers didn't grasp the LT1's capabilities without the raw displacement numbers. Only 175 Deuce Novas were ever made, far fewer than the hundreds of earlier 427 Camaros or Chevelles, and with no reissues or official continuation cars, the Deuce remains one of Yanko's rarest and sharpest creations. Survivors command serious money today. Each one has a serial number, a paper trail, and a seat at the table of Copo royalty. It's not just a Nova, it's a Corvette in disguise, tuned by a legend. But while Yenko's Deuce hit hard with finesse, Chevy's next creation was pure confusion, a British nameplate, Vegas-sized, and born with racing heritage nobody asked for. Top 6. 1975 Chevrolet Cosworth Vega. A Chevy subcompact with a British racing heart? That's not a joke, it's the weirdest transatlantic experiment GM ever sold. In the early 70s, Chevrolet wanted to prove the Vega wasn't just a throwaway economy car. The answer? Team up with legendary British engine builder Cosworth Engineering, known for dominating Formula One. The result was the Cosworth Vega, a hand-assembled, all-aluminum DOHC inline-4 with electronic fuel injection, stainless steel headers, and a red line of 6,500 RPM. This wasn't your grandma's grocery getter. The Cosworth four-cylinder made 110 horsepower, modest on paper, but in a car that weighed under 2,800 pounds, it was snappy. Quarter miles were in the low 16-second range, and it revved like no other American car of its size. The engine block was still GM's aluminum Vega design, but the head was pure Cosworth wizardry. On the outside, it wore black paint, gold pinstriping, and 13-inch aluminum wheels. Inside, engine-turned dash trim and a leather-wrapped wheel hinted at European intentions. It looked fast standing still, and totally out of place in Chevy showrooms filled with Caprices and Monte Carlos. Chevy planned to build 5,000 for homologation, but emissions certification delays, a steep $6,000 price tag, and consumer confusion tanked sales. In 1975, only 2,061 units were sold. Most buyers just couldn't justify a four-cylinder sports coupe from Chevrolet. Today, the Cosworth Vega is a cult favorite. Enthusiasts admire its ambition, while collectors hunt the lowest-mile survivors with matching drivetrain stamps. It was too ahead of its time, and too odd for its own good. And speaking of strange combinations, Chevy wasn't done mixing luxury, decals, and muscle. Because what came next was a gold-trimmed Cutlass that tried to be a Hurst shifter ad on wheels. Top 7, 1977, Hurst Olds Cutlass. W30. What happens when a shifter company gets its name on an entire muscle car? You get one of the strangest brand mashups of the 70s. By 1977, the muscle car era was dying, but Oldsmobile and Hurst wouldn't go down without a final flex. Enter the Hurst Olds W30, a limited edition Cutlass Supreme built to honor the golden age of tire smoke and chrome. But this one leaned hard into flash. Gold stripes, Hurst badges, rally wheels, sport mirrors, and a blacked-out grille screamed dealer's special. Under the hood? A 350 cubic inch Olds Rocket V8, good for around 170 horsepower. Not mind-blowing, but the W30 still had muscle in its DNA, especially with the optional dual exhaust and 3.08 axle ratio. It wasn't quick in a straight line, quarter-mile times hovered in the 17-second range, but it sure looked fast. Inside, gold trim dominated everything. Gold dash bezel, gold stitching, and a T-handle Hurst dual-gate shifter mounted on a center console with Hurst proudly stamped across it. Bucket seats, rally gauges, and a sport wheel added just enough theater to remind you this wasn't your uncle's base Cutlass. Only 2,499 units were made for 1977, and many buyers just didn't get it. Was it a performance car? A luxury cruiser? A marketing gimmick? Even dealers couldn't always explain what made it special, aside from the badge and the shifter. Most W30s disappeared into used car lots or daily driver duty, blending in with lesser Cutlasses. But to collectors, that Hurst name is everything. Surviving examples now turn heads at auctions and cars and coffee meets, celebrated for their audacity and oddball charm. But if the Hurst Olds was a strange luxury muscle crossover, the next car took weird to an aerodynamic extreme, with fender flares and race day graphics baked into a commuter coupe. Top 8. 1977 Chevrolet Monza Mirage. But what do you get when Chevy tries to turn a compact commuter car into a pseudo-NASCAR street machine? You get the Mirage. The Chevrolet Monza started life as a sleek but underpowered subcompact, meant to compete with imports and rising fuel costs. But in 1977, someone at Chevy, or more precisely, someone at Michigan Auto Techniques, had a different vision. Enter the Monza Mirage, a dealer-installed appearance package that transformed this mild-mannered coupe into a wild, wide-body outlaw. The Mirage was decked out with flared fiberglass fenders, front and rear spoilers, a ducktail wing, and full-length red-white racing stripes that screamed track-ready. It was all show, no go. Most were powered by the 305 Ci V8, putting out a modest 145 horsepower paired with either a 4-speed manual or a 3-speed automatic. Inside, it was still Monza basic. Vinyl buckets, faux wood trim, and minimal creature comforts. But that exterior? Pure attitude. The Mirage looked like it belonged on a NASCAR oval, despite being mostly at home in grocery store parking lots. Here's the kicker. The Mirage wasn't built by Chevrolet itself. Instead, Michigan Auto Techniques handled the conversions, using base Monzas delivered from the factory. Official production estimates vary, but around 2,500 units were believed to be made, making it one of the rarest performance appearance cars of the era. Because it was never a true factory performance model, the Mirage flew under the radar for decades. Many were scrapped, repainted, or stripped of their flares, mistaken for base Monzas. Surviving cars today are unicorns for GM oddball fans. But as flashy as the Mirage was, the next car went in the complete opposite direction. A grocery getter wagon hiding a drag strip secret under its plain Jane sheet metal. Top 9, 1973 Chevelle Laguna Estate Wagon SS. A muscle car in disguise? Not quite, but this wagon might be the weirdest SS you've never heard of. By 1973, the Chevelle Laguna was Chevrolet's upscale, mid-size marketed more for comfort than quarter-mile supremacy. But tucked in the corner of a few dealer lots sat something bizarre. Laguna Estate wagons, optioned with SS badging, sport mirrors, rally wheels, and a full complement of performance cues typically reserved for coupes. This wasn't an official Chevrolet release. These were dealer-built hybrids, part practical hauler, part street flex. Most wore two-tone paint, featured bucket seats, center consoles, and sport steering wheels pulled straight from the Laguna Coupe catalog. You could even spec the 4.54 big block V8, giving the wagon serious grunt with 275 horsepower and 395 pound-feet of torque, capable of 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds. Not bad for something that could haul plywood and a family of 6. This wasn't a factory option. These SS wagons were dealer creations, built from regular Laguna estates with swapped parts, emblems, and performance gear. No RPO code, no records, just muscle in disguise. Out of over 5,000 Laguna wagons built in '73, fewer than 300 are believed to have been converted into SS spec wagons. Most vanished without a trace, wrecked, parted out, or mistaken for plain family haulers. That makes surviving examples today among the rarest GM oddballs of the '70s. That lack of documentation made these wagons near mythical. For years, enthusiasts argued over authenticity. But when a real-deal Laguna Estate SS appears, matching numbers, original trim, it's met with stunned silence. They're weird, rare, and ridiculously cool in an only the '70s kind of way. Once laughed off as grocery haulers, the 1973 Chevelle SS wagons now haunt auctions and private garages, proof that even the weirdest dealer builds can become legends in their own right. Thanks for riding with us through another wild trip down muscle memory lane. If you're still here, you're not just a car fan, you're part of the top 5 classic car crew. We're building more than a channel, we're building a garage of legends, one forgotten beast at a time. Got a favorite weirdo from the '70s we missed? Drop it in the comments. We read every single one. And if this video revved your engine, give it a like, hit subscribe, and turn on that bell, because the next build might just be stranger, faster, or rarer than anything we've shown so far. This is Top 5 Classic Car, where every forgotten ride still has a story to tell.